Hey, what's up everybody? Ray here. Happy Monday to you. I hope you all had an excellent weekend. I wanted to get the week started off on a good foot. I want to talk about something that a lot of people have been asking me about. A lot of you all have been messaging me and leaving comments and stuff like that about Square Enix and kind of, what they're doing, what their plans are. So I wanted to make a video kind of covering all the things I kind of anticipate that they might be going into based on news articles and just kind of what I've heard and kind of my opinion. But before we get into it, please throw a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. More stuff like this coming all the time. And big shout out to everybody who has become a member on YouTube and has signed up on Patreon, and just follow me on social media right here, Kaufman20XX on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you all for the support. Appreciate you all. And thanks for the love you all put on the those of you who checked out the Mortal Kombat movie review that I did. Reviews are something I want to start doing more of, like video game reviews and like any kind of media that is like video game related or video game interest. I'm wanting to start doing reviews and opinion pieces on. So thank you all for showing the love on that. Good feedback, and I will be doing more stuff like that in the future. But let's get into this, because this is something I've been wanting to tackle for a while, and I didn't really know how I wanted to structure the video and the conversation about it. So basically I figured I would just do what I always do. I tried to script this thing out and everything. I just winded it up and threw it away. I was like, we're just going to come off the cuff. We're going to have a conversation about it like we always do. Square Enix has been moving. They have been moving, making big moves, working on big projects. They currently have Forspoken, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Part 2, whatever that's going to be, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 14 ongoing online. Endwalker's going to be coming out this fall, with a slew of other titles. So who knows what they're doing? The future of Kingdom Hearts. They've got all kinds of projects on the fire, not to mention numerous remasters and remakes. So that's where we're kicking off here. As it's been reported since the beginning of March, the company Forever Entertainment that handles a lot of they do remasters and stuff like that. Apparently they've signed a big contract with Square Enix. Now I don't know what the caveats are, the details, the numbers, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people have been, and this is the company that did the Panzer Dragoon remake, which a lot of people loved. I didn't like it so much. It was okay. It was okay, but a lot of people really loved that game. So, and it got a lot of acclaim. Of course, I'm not like the biggest Panzer Dragoon fan, so that has something to do with it. But apparently they are signed on to do several remakes for Square Enix. Now, what that implies and what that entails, we don't know. I don't think they're going to be doing any Final Fantasy remakes. I think Final Fantasy, Square Enix will keep that in-house. I don't think they're going to be touching Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. Now, I could be wrong, but let's talk about some of the titles they could be working on to remake. Apparently, there is one particular franchise that they will be handling the remake for. They will be remaking. Now, if that means a game in the franchise or just the old games in the franchise themselves, remaking those games, that's an interesting concept, right? So what I want to talk about today are some of the franchises I think that could be. I really think there's a really strong possibility, before I get into my wish, and you all know which one I'm wanting. But we'll get into that here in a second. I think Parasite Eve's on the table. I think Parasite Eve could be a really cool franchise for them to explore remaking. I think there's a lot you could do with those characters, that lore, just the modern day kind of feel, the Resident Evil tone to it, because those games are very much not influenced by, but almost like the second cousin to Resident Evil, but very much Square Enix putting its own spin on it. It's not really survival horror. It's just kind of horror and suspense. It's not really survival horror though. I think Parasite Eve 1 and Parasite Eve 2 are on the table for a remake. I think that could be the project that they're working on, if they're not working on several projects right now. And could this lead, if these games are good, could this lead to a Parasite Eve 3? like a PS5 in development, current gen. If they did Parasite 1 and Parasite 2, Parasite, what was I thinking? Parasite Eve 1 and Parasite Eve 2, if they put those on current gen consoles as a remake, they wouldn't look like Dragon Quest 11. They wouldn't look like Final Fantasy 7 Remake. They wouldn't look like Nier Replicant, and they wouldn't look, like their current games. They would look like remakes of a PS1 game in a way. But I think there's a strong possibility if those do well, we could see Parasite Eve 3 to kind of tell a full 3-act story. I think that's a possibility. Another game that people aren't talking about that I think could be on the table is the Musashi series. Brave Fencer Musashi, Samurai Legend Musashi, whatever the PS2, I think it was called Samurai Legend Musashi, and then a third one. So if you remake Brave Fencer Musashi, which is one of the best Square Enix games on PS1, that game is so fun. That's a different type of beast, right? That's more of an action game with RPG elements. So I think that is a different kind of venue for what Square Enix is really focusing on right now. And you could do it in a way that almost borrows from Final Fantasy VII Remake's battle system, right? I think something like that would really work well with Brave Fencer Musashi, and especially like a Samurai Legend Musashi, more so because it's more of a, that game has less of a stylized feel and more of kind of like a mature toned feel as far as the artwork and the aesthetics of it go. I think those could be on the table. Now, there are several other games that I feel like could be remade. I feel like Squaresoft, the Squaresoft side of Enix, Square Enix, I feel like they'll be pushing their older titles because that's really kind of where most of the great games come from, is the Squaresoft side. Enix, I've covered before, my top 10 games I want to see them remake, but I feel like Squaresoft had the bigger hits from that era before Square Enix were merged. I feel like they would go with Squaresoft games. Now, the one you all know that I'm going to get to, Chrono Trigger, the Chrono franchise. I don't feel like this is the franchise they're referencing in the Forever Entertainment rumor, but I really hope that it is, because talk what you want about Parasite Eve, and if those games are great, it's got its fan base, and I like Parasite Eve. The first one more so than the second one, but I really like Parasite Eve. The Chrono series is undeniable. The Chrono series is undeniable. It's legendary. People who don't even like RPGs love Chrono Trigger. People who can't stand Japanese role-playing games and people who only play Japanese role-playing games love Chrono Trigger. It's like the one thing that kind of brings everybody together outside of OG Final Fantasy VII, right? And even OG Final Fantasy VII had its detractors, like almost like gaming hipsters that were like, oh, OG Final Fantasy VII, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. Everybody else loved it, so I had to hate it. You've got those people, right? You're always going to have those people for anything. I'm not getting into Remake because people's opinions on Remake, they're all valid. We're not going to get into that. But Chrono Trigger seems to be the one place where everybody comes together in this warm harmony of gaming utopia, right? It's this one place where everybody comes together. They love it. So I hope that the Chrono series is on the plate for Forever Entertainment. Now, the reason I say a remake for those would be great, it's not just Chrono Trigger. It's Radical Dreamers and it's Chrono Cross. I feel like you have a great opportunity here to take Radical Dreamers and take it from a text-based adventure and make a real, tangible Act 2 out of it. Because Chrono Trigger, Radical Dreamers, and Chrono Cross tell a whole story. They tell a whole story. You could tinker the ending of Chrono Cross to make more sense, and you could give us Radical Dreamers in the same style of Chrono Trigger. Because Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross were turn-based RPGs. Yes, absolutely. But they each had their own feel and own aesthetic. The artwork change really kind of took people off guard because you changed artists. Of course, Akira Toriyama's artwork from Chrono Trigger is legendary. But you changed aesthetics. I feel like if you brought in Akira Toriyama to do the artwork for Chrono Trigger, Radical Dreamers, Chrono something Radical Dreamers and then Chrono Cross, and you make Radical Dreamers a tangible game, like a game that you play, like a turn-based RPG. So it has the same flow. I feel like that story is going to make more sense. It catapults it into the stratosphere of great franchises. Right now, I have a hard time calling the Chrono series a franchise because you got Chrono Trigger, you got Chrono Cross, and Chrono Cross suffered a lot from review bombing. People gave it bad reviews. That game is one of the greatest games ever made. I will die on that hill. That game is one of the greatest games ever made. A lot of people never played it because it got some weird reviews, and they didn't see the link between that and Chrono Trigger. I loved it. That game that's in my top 5 PS1 games of all time. That's in my top 5 Square Enix games of all time. It's fantastic. I feel like this is a great opportunity for Square Enix to right the ship through Forever Entertainment with the Chrono series. So I think Parasite Eve, the Brave Fencer Musashi series, like creating a series out of those two, giving those two a third act, and going back and revamping, polishing, and essentially remaking those games are a possibility. My hope and my heart lies with Chrono Trigger. I really hope that's what they're doing. So before it's all said and done, every Monday from now on, my first video post of the week, I want to give a shout out to everybody who is supporting me, backing me on Patreon, becoming a YouTube member. So right now, I want to give a shout out to my latest YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. I want to give a shout out to Walker Swindle, Leslie Q, Jordan Bramley, Labib Zahid, becoming my newest YouTube members. I appreciate you all so much. And then over on Patreon, we got Elizabeth Jack, Kieran Murphy, 2 of my newest patron subscribers, and also special shout out to Steven Saunders, who's double dipping. He backed me on Patreon. He's a patron now, and he's a YouTube member. Appreciate all of you all so much. It really, literally every dime that you all put into this in super chats and on here, it all goes back into the studio. I got new layout stuff for the studio happening. Hopefully getting a new camera next month. I mean, it all, consider their virtual donation bucket over here, and every time you support me, it all goes back into the studio. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Anyway, let me know what you all think in the comments below. If y'all liked that, if y'all dug that, throw a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell when you know when I got new videos coming up and going live. And until next time, you all be safe out there, be good to each other, keep rocking, and I will see you all in the next video.